Good YouTube. Happy New Year from Analysis Playground. And we're going to go and make a new video here, and we're going to talk about the rundown, one of the signature exclusive styles podcast wise that I offer on Analysis Playground on YouTube, exclusively on there forever. And let's go ahead and talk about them Detroit Pistons. For people that don't know or just checking this video out for the first time or this series out for the first time, I go through every single team from East all the way to the West and give you my update and my analysis on all the teams in the NBA. And then I end the video after that. So let's start with the Detroit Pistons. They are a team that a lot of people didn't see being at the top of the East this long, but they have still remained the best team in the East for another month. Detroit is 25-8. They have a 75 win percentage. They're 12-2 at home, 12-6 on the road, 5-3 in the division, 17-5 in the conference. That's a really good record, and they are a plus 6.4 in differential. And then they also on a 1-game win streak because they lost to the Clippers and they won a game after that. They are 7-3 in their last 10. Cade is looking like the leader that we thought he would be in the draft. He's carrying a heavy load. He's playing decent defensively. He's making his teammates better. He's getting his own buckets. He's doing it the hard way, but he wouldn't have it no other way because it shows you his greatness. Jalen Duren is having an all-star caliber season. Thompson and Ivy are all healthy and helping out. Tobias Harris isn't that bad this year. I mean, they just doing it by committee, just trusting each other, playing hard, cutting, hitting shots, making plays. And they have really been amazing this year. And they have only lost single digits. They haven't even lost double digits yet. And you have to have a crazy performance, it seems like, to beat this team. But we'll see if they make any moves to win more this year, or they just continue to grow and develop their young talent and their chemistry. That's their question. Do they keep it together, or do they take another gamble to try to better their talent, to have them try to come out of the East and possibly win a championship? Now, the team that went all in last year by getting Karl-Anthony Towns and getting rid of Julius Randle is the New York Knicks. They're 23-10. They have a 69 percentage when it comes to winning. They are 15-2 at home, 7-8 on the road, 5-2 in the division. A beautiful 18-8 in the conference. They're a 6.6 plus differential and win. And then they also lost their last game, but they still finished this last 7-3. And Jalen Brunson is having another great season. Towns has still been the ideal fit with him. Mikal and OG are defending and knocking down perimeter shots. Their bench has been coming through, mainly Jordan Clarkson, Mitchell Robinson, and those guys been holding it down. They've been having some other guys like Muhammad step up here and there. They're a complete team, and they have a coach that's trying to use as many guys as he can, trying to keep guys healthy, trying to keep guys getting good looks and good shots without having to work too hard for them. And, they changed it a little bit and they added a little bit too. This is why they're winning so well this season. And I think it's going to continue as long as they're healthy. They even had some injuries and still kept on winning. And for them to be 10 games plus above 500 lets you know how good of a team that they really are. And they're the favorites to come out of the East, but they had some trouble with Detroit. So I think that would be a good series to see again, even if it's in the conference finals. But the Knicks, we expected them to be good this year, and they're having just about the season that we thought. Besides, they're not number one in the conference, and that's about it. But they ain't that far from being number one. They're only 2 games back. The Boston Celtics, 20 wins for them, 12 losses. Nobody would have predicted that they would have played this well without Jason Tatum and losing Porzingis and Holiday and all those guys. Al Horford, Luke Cornett, Big Net, all of them is gone. But they still found a way to win. They still found a way to stay in games. And Jaylen Brown is having one of the best seasons this season, regardless of players. He's up there with the Jokic's and the Sheas etc., when it comes to numbers, when it comes to translating them to wins, and when it comes to dominating the game of basketball. They have a 62 percentage when it comes to winning. 4.5 games behind Detroit for number one in the East. They're 10-5 at home, 10-7 on the road, two good records. 5-4 in the division, but they're 15-8 in the conference. You would take that. 6.1 plus differential, and they won their last game. They're 7-3, just like the Knicks and the Detroit Pistons in their last 10 games. And it's just been, can Peyton Pritchard, Derek White knows hit enough shots? Can Sam Hauser splash off the bench? Can Kata just anchor the paint enough until Garza or somebody come in to relieve him, and then he gets back in and try to do it again? And then can Jaylen Brown be spectacular, throughout the game and try to help them close it? They're going to shoot their threes. They're going to be competitive defensively, and none of the guys quit. All of them are playing hard. All of them demanding greatness from each other, and that's why their record is what it is. The Raptors, they're 20-15. They have a 57 win percentage. They have 6 games to go to be able to get to number one as a recording of this video. They're 10-8 at home, 10-7 on the road, 3-6 in the division, 17-10 in the conference. You're taking that, in a 1.3 win differential. They also lost their last game, and they're 5-5 in their last 10. They've been coming back to earth, but they still have a good record. As long as they make the playoffs, I think they'd be happy with their season. And as long as they're healthy going into the playoffs, they'd be happy with that. They just got RJ Barrett back. That might help them win a couple more games. He can shoot a three, he can get to the basket. Ingram has really been consistent for them, hitting the mid-range, hitting the threes, taking no real effort to score, it seems like. Scotty Barnes has been doing triple-double things for them, and you have to love that. And he also bringing it defensively. Their role players have stepped up and made shots and made plays throughout this entire season. That's why they have the record that they have. And you just have to be happy with how they're performing and how they're executing. A lot of people had the Raptors in that area where, are they good? Are they bad? They've been showing that they're more good than they're bad, but they also haven't shown that they're great or amazing. And you still will be happy with this because they have a lot of pieces and they have a lot of guys that are interchangeable, and they also are ready for an upgrade whenever it's needed and the player comes available. So you have to kind of stay in the middle sometimes so you can find a way to get to the top. It's not the position that people want to be in, but it's the way that it has to be sometimes. Remember, they had to trade DeMar DeRozan to get Kawhi Leonard, and that ended up getting them a championship. So Masai helped put this team together. It looks good. They're playing better than what people thought. Now it's just about how long can they keep it going, and can they have home court advantage in the playoffs. That would be something that most people wouldn't give them, but they have the chance to do it if they keep playing the way that they were before these last 10 games. Orlando, they also have had a season where it's been up and down because of the injuries to Paulo and Franz and Jalen Suggs, but they still getting it done. 19-15 is their record. They have a 55 win percentage. They are 6.5 games behind Detroit for the number one seed in the East. They're 11-5 at home, 8-9 on the road, 5-3 in the division, 13-11 in the conference. They have a 1.7 win differential. They won their last game. They also are 5-5 in their last 10, but their defense is kind of there. We haven't seen them fully healthy. Desmond Bane has helped them win a lot of games. He has stepped up as a finisher, as a shot creator, and as a shooter. For Tristan Da Silva and those guys are coming off the bench holding it down, whether if it's Goga, whether if it's even Tyus Jones. And then you also have guys like Wendell Carter, who's having a decent season too. And then Paulo is not having a dominant all-star caliber year for them. That's also been a letdown, but it hasn't really hurted their wins that much, as they're still above 500 by a couple games. So this is a team that I look at that they can get better, they can improve, they can have a better ending to their season if they can get a couple guys back and make a run before it's too late. But also, if I'm the Magic, I don't mind playing the Raptors in the first round if that's what we get. I think we can compete with those guys. I think we match up good against those guys. I think we can play with those guys if the mentality they have to have. And obviously, the Raptors will feel the same way. But Orlando, they having a season where we thought that they would be one of the top teams in the East. They ain't doing it the way we thought that they would, but they still there, and they still have a chance to move up. Philadelphia 76ers, they've been having a similar season because they have Embiid in and out. Paul George misses a significant amount of time. Obviously, Tyrese Maxey is having an MVP type of year. VJ Edgecombe is a good rookie that they picked up, and he's been good. And their bench is more solidified, and they're getting a lot out of them. Obviously, they have a 54 win percentage because they're above 500. They have 7 games behind Detroit, 9-8 at home, 8-6 on the road, 6-3 in the division, 13-12 in the conference. They have a zero point 0.1 differential when it comes to winning. And they also have a 1 game win streak, and they're 5-5 also in their last 10. You just don't know with this team. They just going out there competing with what they have. You got to give Nick Nurse his credit to have them above 500 with so many lineup changes and so many guys missing. You just don't know how good they are. You just don't know how great they are because you just don't see a steady team from them. And it's going to be like that the whole season when you have a mix of old and young players and guys still trying to prove themselves and guys that still are trying to win something significant in their career, and you still depending on Joel Embiid sometimes, and he's going to be missing in and out of the games, and you just have to figure out how to use them and how not to use them, and how to win with them, how not to win with them, which is always going to be confusing and irritating for the fans and for the coaching staff. But they signed up for this job, and they're doing a good enough job. And now it's just about riding it out and just trying to get your best lineups ready for the rest of the season to see how it plays out. The Miami Heat, they're 18-15. They have a 54 win percentage. They also are 7 games behind the Pistons. They're 12-5 at home, 6-10 on the road, 3-3 in the division, 11-10 in the conference. They also have a plus 3.5 differential. They won their last 3 to get to 7th right now, and they're 4-6 in their last 10, so they still was a below 500 team. But they have a good roster. The roster isn't a championship winning one. It's just a decent one that can survive the NBA regular season. Obviously, you want Tyler Hero back and healthy. Obviously, you want Davion Mitchell and those guys to continue to have a good season. Andrew Wiggins, you want him to do a little bit more. Bam, you want him to score more and just try to have the ball in his hands more because he's just that good of a player. And you just look at their bench and say, well, we still have some good guys that can come in. Jaime Jaquez, Khalil Ware starts and sometimes come off the bench. They have Norman Powell. He's having a decent season. So you have a lot of talent. You just want to get more healthier and see can you really compete in the Eastern Conference. If not, you just look at it like we got a lot of good players to go for upgrade when it comes. If not, we're still not in the worst position ever because a lot of our guys are still young and they still are not that beat up and that toe up. So they still have value. And even if we have to keep them, is something's going to give is the way you have to look at it. And that's why you just play out this season and say, this is the best we can do. We happy with this, and we just have to take our wins and losses how they come. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 19-16. They have a 54 win percentage, but it's 54.3. They have 7 games also behind the Pistons to go. They're 12-8 at home, 7-8 on the road, 6-2 in the division, 13-12 in the conference, plus 2.5 differential. They won their last 2, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. Based off last year, this team is a disappointment. Based off this year, they still have a chance to make it to the playoffs. They have Donovan Mitchell having an MVP season. Darius Garland is getting healthier. Evan Mobley is back. Jared Allen seems okay. Their bench is decent, but it hasn't performed the way that they thought. DeAndre Hunter has been a little bit of a disappointment for them. They thought he was going to be a big pickup for them. They ended up flaming out in the playoffs. He hasn't really been that great this season. Lonzo Ball hasn't been that player that they thought that they was getting. that was going to offer them defense and 3-point shooting and playmaking and rebounding. He hasn't been really been that guy for them either. But they still have depth. They still have skill. They still have shooting. They still have speed and quickness and athleticism. So they're going to be a tough team to prepare for. They're going to be a tough team to beat. That's why they still above 500, but they also haven't been the team that they should be. And you also have to look at the coaching staff and say, we giving y'all so many things that y'all can play around with. Y'all can't find a winning formula. So they're not going to really blame it too much on the players. They're going to look at the coaching staff and say, we gave y'all what y'all need to be able to win. Now, if y'all can't win at a high level, somebody got to go. We normally see the coaches go before the players. I don't know if they're going to do that, but it's something they have to look into because they have too much talent to only be 3 games above 500. And then the Chicago Bulls, they're 1 game below 500. They got off to a good start, couldn't keep it going, but they also still find themselves in a situation where they can still make the playoffs with their 16-17 record. They have a 48 win percentage. They have 9 games to go if they want to be number one in the East, which doesn't seem likely. They're 9-8 at home, 7-9 on the road, 3-6 in the division, 12-11 in the conference. They're minus 3.5 in differential. They won their last game, but they're 7-3 in their last 10. That's something that gets you happy. That's something that gets you excited. If you're a Chicago Bulls fan, they're a tough team to beat. They're a team that can always make runs. They're a team that can always put it together. They're a team that really plays well off of each other and play well when it comes to driving and kicking or just getting all the way to the basket and finishing. And they also have just good ball movement sometimes too, but they can get it on their own also. So, they don't have the greatest talent. They don't have the greatest individual players, but they just understand what their game is and how to play it and how to play it off of each other. And sometimes that's all you really need to have a season where nobody really thought you would be good or bad. They just thought you would be all right, which is okay. And 16 and 17 is that. And then the team that's disappointing a lot of people is the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, they still find themselves in the play-in tournament right now, but they're 16-19. Trae Young came back, then he went out, then he came back. Jalen Johnson is having an all-star season just like last year. He just hopes that he stays healthy enough to get the credential. But 16-19 is just way too bad. Porzingis is still dealing with an illness. He hasn't played that much. He hasn't had the season that we thought he would have because of that. And that's been a huge blow to them. Onyeka Okongwu is really balling and having a good season, though. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is having a good season, too. And like I said, when you get Trae Young back, you just hope he can help you get more wins or help you get a player that can do it for you, too, as he's on the trading block, which a lot of people have been saying all season and in the offseason, too. 45 win percentage, 10 games back from Detroit for number one in the East if they try to get it. 6-11 at home, 10-8 on the road, 4-3 in the division, 9-13 in the conference, minus 0.8 in the differential. They won their last game and they're 2-8 in their last 10. They're going in the wrong direction, but they still got a lot of games left to correct it, and we'll see if they do with Quinn Snyder at the helm of the team. The Milwaukee Bucks just got Giannis back. They just lost to the Wizards. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They lost 1 game, which was that one. They're 14-20 on the season. They find themselves out of the play-in and out of the playoffs. That's tough to see if you're Giannis. He's been on a trade block to a lot of people, and their record isn't good, and he's having another dominant season, even though he's been injured a lot this year. 41 win percentage, 11-5, 11 and a half games behind the Pistons, 8-9 at home, 6-11 on the road, 5-4 in the division, 12-14 in the conference. Miles Turner has been solid for them. I like what Bobby Portis has been doing lately. He's been a bucket for them. Ryan Rollins has been a good find. Kevin Porter Jr. is finally healthy. He's putting up numbers, but they need to put up wins. And we'll see now that Giannis is back and healthy, and if he can stay that way, can they get back into the play-in tournament or at least to that 7th or 8th spot before the end of the season? I thought they'd be a 500-ish team because of Giannis as being that great and that dominant. but this has been a collapse right now. They have been going through these things multiple seasons, and they figure it out eventually. And it's just how long the season can be in general. If you think one way, then you see something happen, and you think another. But at the end of the day, they still have enough with AJ Green and the Gary Trent Jr.'s, the Kyle Kuzma's of the world, and they should be able to be good enough to at least be in the conversation to be in the playoffs. But the East is getting better. The talent got to go somewhere. Somebody got to pay them. Somebody's going to want to take a chance on them. So you just have to continue to play your best basketball and see what happens. And I think the Bucks still have a chance to do that. Charlotte Hornets 11-22, 33 win percentage for them. 14 games behind Detroit, 7-10 at home, 4-12 on the road, 4-4 in the division, 10-15 in the conference, minus 3.1 differential. They lost their last two games and they're 4-6 in the last 10. Don't really have a problem with them. I didn't think they was going to be that good this year. I looked at them as one of the worst teams in the league. Their defense is bad. Their offense is slowly healing and fixing itself because they had guys like Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, and stuff like that out of the lineup. And then they didn't play with each other a lot this entire season either. And then they still trying to find minutes for other players and still trying to figure out what works with what and how things would go with this. And they're experimenting too. And then Miles Bridges now is out, and that hurts their chemistry because he's one of their important pieces and what they're trying to build with. And that's how it's been their season. Is a team that can be scary to go against when everything's clicking, but you don't see it enough for them to be a playoff team. And if you play like that, you will be 11-22 like they are now. Brooklyn Nets, they won 10 games and lost 20. They also have a 33 win percentage. They also are 13 and a half games behind Detroit. They're 4-12 at home, 6-8 on the road, 3-7 in the division, 8-14 in the conference, minus 4.2 differential, 11. They also lost their last one, and they're 6-4 in their last 10. Nobody thought they would be good. They don't have enough talent. Cam Thomas has been out for a significant amount of time. He just came back. Michael Porter Jr. is the best player on the team. He's been real efficient. He's been real good when it comes to rebounding, scoring, and just showing up and playing basketball no matter who's out there on the court with him. Yegor is showing you that he can be a starting point guard in this league with a little bit more growth and a little bit more improvements and a little bit more evolution. Danny Wolf is playing. We have to see more of him. And this is just a team that you just don't know who's going to be kept, what they're going to be, what they're going to look like, even in the future. And you just have to just watch what they are and watch what they do and just take it with a grain of salt and also just enjoy it for what it is because this is going to be an ugly year for them. They knew it, but it's still about seeing what you have and seeing what you got and seeing what you want to keep and seeing what you want to move off on even in the future. So this is how rebuilding years can be. And you can say the same thing for the Washington Wizards, just about developing Carrington and the SARS, and they have looked better as of late, but they're still 8-24. They have a 16 and a half to go to be able to catch Detroit. They're 4-11 at home, 4-13 on the road, 1-4 in the division, 5-17 in the conference. They have a minus 11 and a half differential, and they won their last game, which was against the Bucks, and they're 5-5 in their last 10. Nobody expected them to win games. Nobody expected them to be good. Obviously, they still have Middleton. They still have C.J. McCollum. They have to probably just buy them out or trade C.J. to get something back to continue to build up your assets, to make a move for a player like or draft one that you like. That's all you can really do in their position. They have a chance to get another great player to add to their roster when it comes to the draft, and that's what they should just continue to focus on besides developing the players they possibly want to keep. And then the team that nobody really seen being the worst team in the East, but they are, the Indiana Pacers. That's how their season has been going. They only won 6 games, and they lost 28 of them in this season. Nobody thought that they would be this bad with T.J. McConnell, Benedict Mathurin, Pascal Siakam, some decent role players, and a coach like Rick Carlisle, but it's been disastrous. I don't want to speak too much on it because the season is going to continue. I got another rundown next month so we can continue it. But they're 19 and a half games behind the Pistons for the number one seed. 5 and 13 at home, 1 and 15 on the road, 2 and 6 in the division, 4 and 17 in the conference, a -9 in the differential, and they lost 10 in a row. It seems like there's no hope for them. It seems like nothing's going their way. Even when they're in close games, they always fall short. Um, it's just nothing that they can really do but hope they get the number one pick and change a lot of things based off that. And then hopefully Halliburton can be an all-star player again for them. If that doesn't happen and that doesn't go their way, they're going to be a rebuilding team soon. It just shows you how fast things can go. 1 minute you're in the finals, the next minute you're the worst team in the Eastern Conference. That's something that just sucks. And I would actually go as far as to say they actually are the worst team in the NBA currently. So that's something that I didn't even think that they would be. And that's something that you really don't want to be proud of or even want to see, even if you're not a fan, especially how good they was playing at the end of the season last year and even in the playoffs. For the Western Conference now, Oklahoma City Thunder running away with it, it seemed like, and then the Spurs caught up. The Thunder 29-5, they have an 85 win percentage. They're at the top of the West, and then they also have the best record in the NBA. They're 17-1 at home. That's a great record. 12-3 on the road, 6-2 in the division, 23-5 in the conference now. They lost to Portland, they lost to Minnesota, and they lost 3 games to the Spurs. They have a plus 14 in differential when it comes to points against the opponent, and then they have a win streak of 3, and they're 6-4 in their last 10. They're getting beat up and toe up a little bit, but Shea's still getting his points. He's still dominating games. They still blowing out the teams that they should blow out. Teams are going to step up. They're going to want to beat them for the bragging rights. They're going to want to show that they compete with them. That's the whole purpose of the NBA. Nothing to make a big deal out of. Nothing to blow out of a proportion. When it comes to the Thunder, they're still tough. They're still great. They still play hard. They still play good defense. They still got a good trio. Everything is just, wow, the Spurs ain't that bad. If the Spurs can actually match up against them, the Spurs can actually beat them. I think we're putting a little bit too much into that. But other than that, Thunder's still the best team. They still look the best. They still have been playing the best basketball that I've seen this year. And hopefully they can stay healthy and continue to dominate the season to show how great they are and play their best basketball to see what they can do in the playoffs. But the Spurs, they had something to say and they had to back it up, showing that it wasn't a fluke. And that they did. They're 24-9 with a 72 win percentage. They're 4.5 games back from the Thunder for that number one spot. They're 12-4 at home, 11-5 on the road, 7-0 in the division, 14-7 in the conference. They're a +5 and a point differential. And they also won their last game, and they're also 8-2 in their last 10. Wemby's back in the starting lineup. That's a good thing. You know how great he is defensively. You know how great he is offensively. The supporting cast is really feeling themselves. They taking the threes. They're confident in their shots. They're moving the ball. They're getting to the basket. They're letting Fox run that offense, and now Castle and him can take turns. They even letting other guys like Denton Harper play a little bit more and have a little bit of fun out there. They're really building their chemistry. They're really building their inside out games. Is looking stronger, and that's just more ways to play. That's just more ways to defend. That's just more ways to win. And that's why we seeing this team turn around things so drastically compared to the last couple years and even last season where they had a chance to at least be a play-in team. Now it looks like nothing can stop them. Even when Wemby was out, they were still finding ways to win games. And they still are a young team. A lot of their best players not even 30 or even close. So they have a lot of future that you have to look at. And they have a lot of things that they can even do to even get to the top if the right deal or the right offer comes across their way or the right player. So we have to look at the Spurs as a legitimate threat for the dynasty interruption of the Thunder. Maybe they can be the team that knocks them off, and if they not, maybe it can be Denver, who are 23-10. They won their first game without Jokic after he hurt his knee. He hyperextended it for the people that don't know. Their 69 win percentage is third in the West. They're 5.5 games back from the Thunder. They're 10-5 at home, 13-5 on the road, 4-1 in the division, 16-7 in the conference. They have a 7.1 point differential. They also won their last game, like I said before, and they're 6-4 in their last 10. They just find ways to get the wins, man. They hard team to stop. They're a hard team to keep out the paint. They're a hard team to stop from getting open looks. But Jokic does a lot of that for them, and he helps generate a lot of that. We know Jamal Murray is having an all-star caliber season this year, but it's going to be harder and tougher for him to continue that because so many teams are going to focus on slowing him down and stopping him. So he's going to have to put his helmet on and just try to find a way to take some clumps on the head and some nicks and some bruises to try to help this team win without their best player and his partner in crime. But they off to a good start winning their first one without Jokic, and we'll see what they can do within the next 4 weeks to keep their record decent or fall off a cliff, which we don't really know until they play the game. So we got to keep an eye out for Denver. The Houston Rockets, they're 20-10, 7 games behind to be able to get the record from the Thunder. They're 10-2 at home, 10-8 on the road, 2-3 in the division, 11-9 in the conference. They have an 8.5 point differential. They're a hard team to guard too. They won their last 3, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. That's 500. A lot of people looked at the Rockets as a team that was going to really make a lot of noise. And man, is they kind of doing it because they fourth. You can't say they ain't having a good season. You can't say that they're bad. You can't say that they're terrible. You just look at them and say, is they really a championship contender? Can you win a title with Kevin Durant and Alpi as your best players? Will they be able to use that as their blueprint to win a championship? A lot of people say get rid of Jalen Green, get a more consistent scorer, get somebody that can step up in the fourth quarters and close the game with their defense and Alpi. They still have the same team when it comes to that. They just wanted to upgrade that part of their team, and they still, having a great season. But last year they finished number 2. It don't look like they're going to finish there in the Western Conference, but it just shows you how fast things can change, how fast things can evolve over time. But I do still look at them as a team that can really make some noise and still be a tough out, which we should give them credit just for that. But other than that, they got good role players. They got good stars. They still playing a good brand of basketball on both ends of the court. And that's all you really need to do to have a chance. It just teams do it better to me in front of them. And that's the only problem with being a Rockets fan is that things going to have to go your way if you're going to be able to win the title this year. And you can say the same thing about the Los Angeles Lakers. They're 20-11, and they're 5th in the West. They have a 64 win percentage. They're 7.5 games back behind the Thunder. They're 8-6 at home, which is something I would have never thought that they would be. They also 12-5 on the road. That's really good. 4-4 in the division, 15-8 in the conference. They have a minus 0.4 in differential because they've been different type of teams. Because obviously they had Luka, then they had LeBron out, then they had Austin Reeves out. But they did lose their last game, and they're 5-5 in their last 10. I look at them the same as the Rockets. We thought that they'd be good and better coming into this season than they were last year, and it hasn't really been the case. And mainly because guys been in and out, and they're still trying to find a way to get better with the new additions to the team. And they're not really playing defense that great, and their offense sometimes looks real good, but it depends on how Luka's shooting from 3 and how he's getting his buckets, because he's just that tough of a guy to defend and be able to prepare for and be able to stop. But other than that, LeBron looks good, but not amazing. Austin Reeves looked like he was on his way to an all-star game. Now it may be questionable. And it shows you how hard it is to win in this league where you have all those guys and Aiden and Marcus Smart, Vanderbilt, and all these guys. And it's still a situation where we don't even really consider them as a team that can win a title. And you have one of the top five, top six players in the world in Luka Doncic averaging over 30 plus a game. And they're still a team that we look at as they need more to be able to win it all. And it shows you, man, how tough it is to win in this league, man. They still don't have enough to a lot of people, even me, to be able to get to the conference finals in the West. That's how loaded and that's how deep the West is at the top. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves, they always have respectable seasons since they built the roster around Anthony Edwards. They're 21-13. They have a 61 win percentage. They're 8 games behind the Thunder. They're 12-6 at home, 9-7 on the road, 4-4 in the division, 13-10 in the conference. They have plus 4.2 in point differential. They lost their last game. They're 6-4 in their last 10. You know, Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle is a good combination with Rudy Gobert. They need a little bit more scoring. They need a little bit more pop. They trying to use Bones Highland a little bit more, and they try to see if Rob Dillingham was ready. He still hasn't shown that yet. DiVincenzo, he's a make or miss type of guy. You never know how he's gonna play game to game, but you know he has the confidence and the swagger, so he's gonna try. Jaden McDaniels hasn't really turned into that high dominant scorer. He's just still a 3-and-D guy. Rudy Gobert looks older, but he's starting to play a little bit better lately. We still have to see what they can do against the best again. The goal for them is to make the playoffs and make a run to the finals, and I just don't think it's realistic this year. The conference finals may not even be realistic for them this year. They might call me crazy because they said we've been there twice and our roster hasn't changed that much since last year, and I would say that's last year. You can say the same thing about the Rockets. You can say the same thing about the Lakers. They made changes, they made adjustments, and they still don't look like they're good enough to beat teams like the Spurs and the Nuggets and the Thunder if they wanted to make that goal come true of trying to get to the championship round or close enough to it. That's why you got to go all in every year if you have the talent, because if you don't, you're going to be left regretting that you didn't. The Phoenix Suns, they still there. They still a team that's here. They're 19-14. They're seventh. 57 win percentage, 9.5 games back from the Thunder. 10-5 at home, 9-9 on the road, 7-4 in the division, 17-12 in the conference. They have a plus 1.3 point differential. They lost their last game. They're 6-4 also in their last 10. They just gonna be happy to make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, they're gonna be happy with that. They're still in the play-in tournament though, so it's not gonna be easy for them to do it. But they've been playing great basketball. They're moving the basketball. They're relying on Booker Handle and his positions on the court and his ability to read what the defense is trying to do and be able to counter on with the pass or the bucket. They have shooters like Grayson Allen and Colin Gillespie and Royce O'Neal. Mark Williams has been a decent find for them. They have a decent bench. They have been better than what people thought, and people thought they would have fell off by now, and they still finding ways to win games in the tough Western Conference. But you know, Devin Booker didn't run. He didn't hide. He wanted to smoke. He's bringing it, and that's what they're going to need him to continue to do. Dylan Brooks is balling at an all-time level offensively. He's not just that chuck-up threes, 3-and-D guy. He's getting to the basket. He's getting to the fadeaway. He's getting to the pull-up from mid-range, and it's falling down for him right now. And they just having a better season than a lot of people thought, including myself. Golden State Warriors. This is a team that a lot of people are disappointed in. They liked how they played. A lot of us liked how they played in the playoffs. We liked how they ended the season. But now that they have added more to their roster, added more depth to it, it looks like they just got in quicksand, just like the Timberwolves, the Lakers, and the Rockets. They had to make moves. They thought that they made the moves that made sense for their roster and what they was trying to do as a team. They find themselves above 500 as the recording of this video, 18-16, but not too much for them being 500 too. They're 52 win percentage, and they also have 11 games to go to catch the Thunder. They're 10-4 at home, 8-12 on the road, 4-2 in the division, 12-10 in the conference. A plus two in the two, a plus 2.2, and plus differential. They won their last two games. It was 6-4 in their last 10. They still got guys that know how to get it done. You know, Draymond and Jimmy and Steph, not the greatest duo ever, not the greatest trio ever, but they still know how to get it done. They know how to win games. They know how to close games. And you already know Steph can go off any time in any game against any defender, against any defense. And they're going to find a way to play off of them and find a way to feed them. And it's been still working enough to having a decent season, but this still will be looked at as a disappointment. Most people looked at them, if they're healthy and they got a good summer off, they should be right there with the top of the Western Conference teams, and they not that right now, and they haven't really been all season. The Memphis Grizzlies, they find themselves below 500, 15-18, 13-5, 13.5 games back from the Thunder, 7-9 at home, 8-9 on the road, 4-3 in the division, 13-9 in the conference, a minus 0.6 in point differential, which is bad. They also lost their last two games and 5-5 in their last 10. Ja Morant, you know, he's not having the season that they needed. He's also been in and out of the lineup as usual. Jaren Jackson is playing better on the boards. He's scoring better. He looks like he wants to take over games. It looks like he wants the ball more. Jalen Wells and Cedric Howard is having solid seasons. Zach Edey has been a missing piece that we would like to see more of, but he hasn't been there because of injuries, and a lot of their team has been banged up and toe up too, just like a lot of other teams, even in the West. But they still find themselves in a situation where they can still make the playoffs. Um, and that's something that they have to be happy about, but it's still a lot of games left to play. So we're going to have to see if they can keep it up. And then the Portland Trailblazers, they're 14-20, 15 games behind the Thunder. They're 7-9 at home, 7-11 on the road, 3-4 in the division, 11-13 in the conference. They're -4 in point differential, and they lost their last game, and they 5-5 in their last 10. Nobody thought they'd be that great. Nobody thought that they was going to be that good. Most people thought the Clippers or the Clippers or the Dallas Mavericks would be the team in their spot. But it just shows you how much talent there is in the league, that they're still finding ways to win with what they have. And they have one of the most toe-up rosters in the game. So many injuries this year. And their head coach isn't there in Chauncey Billups because of the scandal with gambling. So they have a lot of belief that they can be a lot better than what they are if they was a lot more healthier. But they will play different games, will turn out differently, because obviously you have different players out there in different roles and you'll be in different situations. But I still thought the Blazers would be a decent team. But, you know, being a playing team is still, you know, you got to look at it and say, I don't really care too much about that. You know, I don't think they're beating Golden State. I don't think they're beating Phoenix. I don't even think they're beating the Grizzlies. And even if they do get healthier, they're going to look at it as more, let's learn, let's grow from this to be better next year. But like I said, if you do the next year thing, it's not guaranteed that you're going to have a better season. And even if you do, the goal is to win a championship and try to get better to be able to do that. Obviously, the Thunder did it. Obviously, the Spurs did it. The Nuggets did it. And now the other teams are trying to find a way to get over that hump so they can do it. So I'm basically saying the Blazers are farther from a championship than people think, but we also have to see how they play with all their talent fully healthy, and that's never really guaranteed any season, is a way to look at it too. The Utah Jazz, they're 12-20. They have a lot of injuries too. 16 games behind the Thunder, 8-11 on the home record, 4-9 on the road, 0-6 in the division, 7-14 in the conference, -6.7 in point differential. They lost their last game. They're 4-6 in their last 10. I like what they've been doing. You know, they've been giving a lot of their guys reps. They've been giving a lot of their guys confidence. They've been letting them play through mistakes. They've been letting them become who they want to become as players and not trying to step on their toes or correct them too much. They have a lot of youth, they have a lot of young talent, and they're playing in some good games, and they're giving teams trouble. And they're not as bad as we thought that they would possibly be as people that watch the game. But that's how it can be. You never know what you have until you go out there and let them play and let them go out there and do their thing. And they having a season where you look at it and say, okay, if they get this, if they get that, they'll be better next year. But it's not guaranteed. That's just how you would feel if you're a Jazz fan or you just see what they're doing this year and you're impressed by it, especially if they beat your team. By you thinking that it'll be easy and they ended up making it tougher than it looked, because they've been having a lot of close games and they've been playing real well in those games and they've been winning a couple of them too. So they're getting things going the right way is basically what I'm saying. And it's just going to have to be a long-term view of what they're going to be in the future is the way you have to look at it if you're a fan of the Jazz or just a fan of basketball in general. The Dallas Mavericks are 12-22. They have a 35 win percentage, 17 games behind the Thunder, 9-9 at home, 3-12 on the road, 2-6 in the division, 6-16 in the conference, a -4 in the point differential, and they lost their last three, and they're 4-6 in their last 10. Uh, AD missing games. That's no surprise. He's been injury prone the last couple years. Still no sign of when Kyrie is going to come back. But Cooper Flag, he's blazing right now. He's going out there tearing up the defenses. He's going out there having games that he dreamed of. This is 2K for him. You get in and you realize you're good enough to be a starter. You want to see how things go. You want to see how things play out. You want to get your feel for the game. You want to see what you can do and what you can get away with. You want to see what works and what doesn't work. And that's basically a filling out process for the Dallas Mavericks. What works for Cooper, what doesn't? What do we need to help him succeed? What we need to help his job become more easier? And we also haven't seen our team healthy this entire year. And we have to see how good we play with AD and Kyrie, or do we get rid of them because they're older, and on top of that, they have been banged up for the last couple years, and we don't want to, put too much weight on Cooper Flag if we don't have to. But we also do want him to understand that he is the team, he is the franchise player, and we're going to do what's best for him too, even if that means keeping AD and Kyrie for another year just to help him learn and grow faster and help his mind and his mental be more expanded. And having a coach like Jason Kidd pushing him too can just help accelerate his growth as a player. And the team has a lot of veterans and a lot of guys that's hungry and a lot of guys that hasn't gave up or quit on the season, and they're not too far from the play-in tournament either. So their season is not completely over, but it also doesn't make sense because they ain't gonna win a title anyway this year. So they have a lot of things to consider. They have a lot of directions they can go in, and we're going to see in these next couple weeks what they do with the roster and what they want to try to do with Cooper, and when they're trying to build a roster around them, what decisions they're going to make. The Los Angeles Clippers, they also not that far, and they're on a 5-game win streak. They're 11-21. They have a 34 win percentage. They also have 17 games behind the Thunder, just like the Mavericks. They're 7-8 at home, 4-13 on the road, 3-4 in the division, 8-14 in the conference. They are minus 1.9 in point differential, and they're 5-5 in their last 10. Kawhi Leonard and James Harden are having fantastic seasons. They still showing you how hard it is to guard them, how hard it is to stop them, how hard it is to slow them down. Kawhi Leonard just been in cyborg mode where the man can't miss a shot. The man has all the moves, and even if he wants to keep it simple, you still can't guard it. Zubac is having another decent season. They need him to continue to play well and get back healthy. And they're just figuring out how to win games again. They got in some situations where they was up. They just couldn't close the games. And now they having games where they're getting up and they're finishing the games with wins. They do need more talent, though. I think Kawhi Leonard was right. You lost Chris Paul. You lost Bradley Beal. You didn't get no legitimate replacements for them. and that's a problem. You obviously need that, especially because you're an older team, and you need to be able to compete with the teams in the West, which is already hard and difficult to do. Plus, you got to be good enough to beat the bad teams too, to get those easy wins, which are never really easy because they want to win for their contract and their livelihood in the NBA also. And then you got the Sacramento Kings. We knew they'd be bad, but just not this bad. They only won 8 games so far this season. They lost 25. They only have a 24% win percentage. They're 20.5 games behind the Thunder. They're 5-10 at home, 3-15 on the road, 1-5 in the division, 6-21 in the conference. A minus 11.3 in point differential would mean they're being blown out. They also lost their last two, and they also 2-8 in their last 10. I mean, they just had a mess of a season. Like Sabonis got banged up, LaVine got banged up. Russell Westbrook tried to play as slow and as calm as he could, but there's nobody really to pass to. Their defense is shot up. I mean, it's just been a season that's miserable for them. They thought that they had a lot of veterans and a lot of guys that knew how to win games and knew how to play at a level that can help them be respectable, when they're going against their opponents, and it all just blew up with injuries, and then they just didn't play good enough to win games in the beginning of the season anyway, and they just got off to a bad start and never could really get it straight or corrected. And next thing you know, they just out of it completely, and it's just been a season that you just look at and say, man, what happened to the Kings? But the New Orleans Pelicans are worse. They're 8-27. They have a 22 win percentage. They're also 21 and a half games behind the Thunder for the number one seed. They're 6-15 at home, 2-12 on the road, 3-6 in the division, 4-21 in the conference, minus 7.5 in point differential, and they lost their last 5. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And the Pelicans, we knew they was going to be bad. They have a lot of young guys. They have a lot of guys that's fun and exciting to watch. They always find themselves in games that's either blowouts or they just put up some good numbers because they was able to score so easy or consistent against the team they're going against. They're more of an offensive firepower type of team. If everybody making their shots, everybody's clicking and everybody's moving the ball and everybody's making their jump shots, that can be a tough team to guard and a tough team to cover. And that's what they basically have been the last couple of years, but they just have more youth and more talent that they're trying to grow and develop. And at the end of the day, that's it. Comment, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell to get the analysis when it first come out. I also do conversation videos just like this, but about other various NBA topics, and also breakdowns of real footage of legends, current legends, rookies, and other future stars. I also do mock draft and draft coverage. I also got over 4,000 videos already on my channel that you can watch right now and enjoy, and it's all for free. And on top of that, I also try to make videos every single day throughout the day to give you something to watch and look forward to when it comes to basketball and NBA content. Other than that, thanks for watching. Thanks for showing love. Thanks for showing support. Thanks for showing respect. And also, thanks for appreciating my content for what it is and continuing to come back and staying loyal to it. And thanks for everybody that checked out the channel for the first time for whatever the reason was. And thanks for everybody that became a subscriber that checked out any video, including this one. And all I can say is hope you had a good new year. Hope you enjoyed the time with your friends, your family. Hopefully you got some good time off and got some rest. And hopefully you guys are ready for another full year that hopefully we all see and can enjoy together. Thank y'all for making time for me on this holiday and watching my videos. And thank y'all for always putting me in your mind and making time for me in general. Other than that, Happy New Year. Y'all stay blessed up. Y'all stay good. Peace. And I'll hopefully see y'all later today with some more instant analysis. Had to switch it up a little bit. Got more breakdowns coming. Got all different type of content coming. You know how I do it. And I just want y'all to have something to look forward to when it comes to basketball because I love it. I enjoy it, and I see y'all do too. So let's continue to keep it going. Y'all love what I make. Y'all love how I make it. Y'all love watching it. I love making it for y'all. So let's keep it going as positive as we can and just enjoying the grind of doing this every single year. I've been in this for 10 plus years. I'm a pioneer for NBA only channels, and I'm just happy that y'all love and enjoy my content. And that's why I'm going to continue to try to make it as good and give y'all as much variety as I can when it comes to it. Other than that, see y'all later, hopefully.